Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
And, well, the P word, Panama, Panamanian, has dominated many of our papers. The government's being urged to get tough on tax avoidance as the fallout continues from that huge leak of data from a law firm in Panama. Investigative reporters have been poring over millions of documents from Mossack Fonseca. We've already had allegations that the company helped clients launder money and evade tax. Now we've learned it kept clients who were subject to international sanctions, with links to Syria's President Assad and indeed North Korea's nuclear arms program. But it says it's operated beyond reproach for 40 years. There are potentially many reasons to use these sort of offshore arrangements. But why? Why would you do it? We're joined now by Jolyon Maugham QC, a barrister who specialises in tax law. Jolyon, good morning to you.
Good morning.
First of all, what is a tax haven?
Well, a tax haven is a jurisdiction with very low tax rates or zero tax rates for outsiders. The tax haven, gets from offering those low tax rates is a thriving local professional services industry that operates to service all the money that comes into the country in consequence of its low tax status.
So there's a few of these dotted around the world, ranging, we should say, on our own doorstep, the Isle of Man and Jersey, all the way up to the British Virgin Islands and Panama. Are there sort of gradations of secrecy? Are there some that are much more secret than others?
Yes, there very much are. I think it's probably fair to say that there's no such thing as a good tax haven. They don't serve any purpose for the global economy. There is no need for companies to operate out of low tax jurisdictions otherwise than to minimize the tax that they would otherwise pay were they to operate in their home jurisdictions. So there's no good reason for any tax havens, but what is true in the general is certainly true of Panama. Panama is a real standout bad guy in this story. It's a uniquely ugly place to site your assets. It offers all sorts of secrecy, opacity, a poor ethical culture that enables the most ugly sorts of transactions to at least seek to escape public scrutiny. I say seek, of course, because thanks to the revelations yesterday, and I think are going to come for another month or so, we are now going to get to see underneath the veil.
I mean, you say ugly and lack of opacity. The companies there and the people who deal with them, I suppose, would say these are, you might not like the legal framework, but there is a legal framework and they stick to it. That's no doubt true as a description of local Panamanian law. But it's, I think, worth questioning whether it's true as a matter, for example, of English law. There are lots of natural places that you might go if you were an English taxpayer who was wanting to use a tax haven for legal tax avoidance. You might go to the Channel Islands, you might go to the Isle of Man, you might go to any one of the number of British overseas territories that operate with basically an English law system, that operate with English expats, that operate in English, and that have fairly stable political regimes. You've got to ask yourself why it is that someone goes halfway around the world to an unstable political regime where Spanish is the main language and that is notable only for the extreme and unattractive secrecy that it offers. I can't really think of any decent reason why you might do that. I really do genuinely struggle. You will hear it said a lot, no doubt in part because of our libel laws, that there is no proof that any of these people were getting up to anything naughty. But people should really, really be skeptical at protestations of innocence from those who have chosen to cite assets in Panama.
Jolyon, let's say, leaving Panama to one side, but taking the whole issue of tax havens. Let's say I'm a UK taxpayer, but I've got a company that's registered in a tax haven. What obligations do I have to the UK revenue if I'm operating a business that way?
Well, it is really rather difficult these days to avoid tax simply through the mechanic of citing a company in a tax haven. We seek, unsurprisingly, to collect the economically right amount of tax on transactions that businesses and individuals engage in. And we don't want to make it easy for people to avoid tax. So there may be reasons why you choose to cite your company abroad. They may or may not be tax related. Your obligations, if you do so, are to declare on your UK tax return the correct amount of tax, applying UK law to the situation that you've created, the complex situation you've created of having that business based in a tax haven.
Just imagine, Jolyon, that I was tremendously wealthy and I wanted to set up one of these accounts basically to minimize my tax. How complicated is it? How long would it take me to set up Adam Parsons Offshore Trust?
Well, you would type offshore tax avoidance into Google and you would be deluged by prospective professional advisors. They would offer you a variety of services. Many of them will overpromise on what those services deliver. But the really important point to note is that these structures are expensive to establish and they are expensive to maintain. So this is a type of tax avoidance that is really only available to the very wealthy. I mean, it's important, of course, to recognize that the subset of wealthy who avoid or evade taxes is a small one. So when we talk about the wealthy, I don't want to suggest that many or even most of the wealthy avoid tax. Plainly, they don't. But it's absolutely fair to say that this is a game that has a very high entry price and is only available to be played, therefore, by those who have a lot of money.
And tough to investigate as well.
Well, this is, I think, what's at the heart of it. If you have a structure that your lawyers have told you works, you might nevertheless seek to put it in a country like Panama, because if it doesn't work, it's perfectly possible that HMRC will never get to find out that it doesn't work. And so you, in a sense, can sleep in your bed at night thinking you're behaving lawfully, but knowing that if your lawyers have been a little aggressive, if they've overpromised, as I put it a moment ago, in all likelihood, HMRC will never find out.
Very good to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed. That is Jolyon Maugham QC, a barrister specialising in tax law. It is a fascinating world, and there is a lot about it in the newspapers this morning.